Dawn reaches Constantinople slowly. The Bosporus is cold and dark, and the water smells of salt, river mud, fish, and tar. Small boats slide across the strait. Oars dip and rise. Each stroke makes a soft knock, hollow and steady, like a heartbeat. Men in wool coats pull at ropes that feel rough and wet. Their fingers are stiff with cold. Their breath shows in short white clouds. Above the shore, the first light touches the domes before it touches the streets. Copper roofs brighten from gray to pale gold. Crosses and spires stand in thin shadow. Seagulls cry, sharp and impatient. A dog barks once, then goes quiet. In the harbors, chains clink. Wood creaks. A bell rings, heavy and slow. Another answers farther away. Not warning, routine. The city knows these sounds the way it knows its own name. Down a narrow lane, shutters open with a scrape. A woman pours water into a basin, and it splashes over stone. The stones are slick, worn smooth by countless feet. In a bakery, a fire catches. The air fills with warm bread smell, yeast and smoke and flour dust. A boy carries a basket, and the loaves are so hot they fog the air when he leans close. At a public fountain, people wait with clay jars. They stand close, shoulders brushing, careful not to spill. A jar bumps another jar. Someone mutters an apology. Someone laughs, soft and tired. A vendor pushes past with onions and herbs, and the sharp green smell follows him like a trail. This is Constantinople waking up. It does not wake like a city that expects to die. The land walls stand behind it like an old giant, scarred, patched, and still enormous. Towers rise at intervals, blunt and watchful. In front of the main wall lies a wide ditch, then another wall, then space, then the final barrier. It is not one defense. It is layers of defense, built to turn fear into patience, and patience into failure. Inner wall, outer wall, terrace, moat. A stone answer to the world's violence. For centuries, these walls have held. They have held against raiders, against kings, against armies that believe they were chosen by God or destiny. The city has learned to trust stone the way a child trusts a locked door at night. And inside those walls, Constantinople is more than a place. It is an idea made solid. It calls itself the heir of Rome. It calls itself the shield of the Christian faith. It sits where Europe and Asia almost touch, where ships from the Black Sea and the Mediterranean must pass. Traders bring wax, fur, grain, silk, spices. Pilgrims come with sore feet and wide eyes. Diplomats arrive with gifts wrapped in cloth and guarded words wrapped in smiles. The air inside the city is thick with living smells. Incense that clings to hair and sleeves. Olive oil spilled on stone. Smoke from charcoal braziers. Horse sweat. Sea wind. In crowded streets, you hear everything at once. A donkey braying, metal tools tapping, sellers calling out prices, children running, sandals scraping, a prayer murmured under breath. Above those streets rises Hagia Sophia, not just a church, but a statement. From the outside it looks calm, almost simple in its mass. But inside, the air turns cool and heavy. It smells sweet and sharp with incense, burned so many times the scent seems trapped in plaster. Candle smoke hangs near the ceiling. Light slips through high windows and breaks into pale beams. Dust floats in those beams, turning like slow snow. Gold mosaics catch the light and flash gently, like distant stars. This is where emperors once walked in long processions. This is where crowns and prayers and power were tied together. The city learned to think in centuries, not in seasons. It learned to picture itself as permanent. But permanence is a feeling, not a shield. Because beneath the domes and ceremonies, the city has been thinning for a long time. If you leave the busiest streets, you find quiet that feels wrong for such a famous capital. Houses with broken shutters, walls that lean like tired shoulders. Courtyards where weeds push through cracks. Vines crawling over abandoned stone. Chickens scratching where workshops once rang with hammers. Inside the huge circle of fortifications, there are open spaces, gardens, orchards, patches of grass. In earlier centuries, these spaces were packed with people. Now, parts of the city feel like separate villages, spaced apart, with fields between them. By 1453, Constantinople had been depopulated by long decline, and it could feel, in places, like walled neighborhoods separated by open ground. This matters because a city is not defended by stone alone. It is defended by people. And there are fewer people now. The empire that once fed this capital has been shrinking for generations. Provinces are gone. Taxes are harder to gather. Armies are harder to raise. Old offices and titles still exist, but they sometimes feel like clothing kept for a body that has grown thin. Faith itself is strained. People argue about church unity and foreign help. Some believe compromise is needed to survive. Some believe compromise is betrayal. These arguments move through markets and courtyards like smoke. Thin, constant, hard to escape. And while Constantinople holds tight to its habits, the world beyond its walls changes faster than the city can. New powers rise. New weapons appear. New rules are being written. Gunpowder is changing war. A wall built to stop ladders and rams was not built to face repeated blows from massive cannons. The old balance, stone against muscle, has become stone against metal and fire. Trade patterns shift, too. Wealth does not flow as it once did. Powerful cities pull it along new routes. Constantinople is still important, but it is no longer the only center that matters. And then there is the Ottoman Empire, young, expanding, confident. Its lands surround the Byzantine remnants like a tightening fist. Its ruler, Mehmed II, is determined. He wants this city, not only for its wealth and position, but for its meaning. To take Constantinople is to take a title, a story, a symbol. In earlier centuries, Constantinople was the weight that made other kingdoms move around it. Now it feels the weight of others pressing in. The danger does not arrive all at once. It gathers like weather over the sea. Outside the walls, tents spread across the fields. At first they look like scattered cloth. Then they become rows. Then a whole moving town of canvas, smoke, and men. Fires burn at night in long lines, and the horizon glows low and orange. Horses stamp. Armor clinks. Men shout orders. Wheels groan under heavy loads. Engineers measure the ground. They place guns carefully, like hands placing stones on a board. Powder is stored. Shot is stacked. Everything is counted and moved and checked again. The siege begins not with a scream, but with preparation. Inside Constantinople, people climb towers and look out. They squint into the haze. They see the camp spreading. They see smoke rising in steady columns. They return to their streets and try to act normal, because acting normal is a way of holding fear back. The chain across the Golden Horn is watched closely. Its iron links are thick, heavy, and dark on the water. Men talk about old victories, old miracles, old times when enemies came and failed. There is comfort in the story the city tells itself, but comfort is not the same as safety. Time tightens inside the walls. Wood becomes precious. Iron becomes precious. Bread becomes something you notice, not only because you want it, but because you wonder if it will be there tomorrow. Watchmen take turns on the walls. Their hands are numb on cold stone. Their eyes sting from wind and smoke. At night, they hear the enemy camp, distant voices, laughter, hammer strikes, the low murmur of thousands of lives waiting. Then the cannon speaks. The sound rolls across the city, hits stone, and comes back again, as if the walls are answering. After the boom comes a strange silence. Then another boom, and then the rhythm begins. Cannon fire is not like thunder. Thunder is wild and careless. Cannon fire is planned. It comes again and again. The same sound, the same impact, the same rising dust. Stone chips away. Mortar shakes loose. Small cracks become larger cracks. Dust falls in thin streams. Men rush with baskets of rubble. Others bring fresh stones and wet mortar. They work with exhausted hands, fingers raw, nails split. They press repairs into place like bandages on a wound. At first, repairs feel possible. Then the next shot undoes them. Then the next. Then the next. The city is not destroyed in one strike. It is worn down. Food thins slowly. The market has less fish, less fruit, less grain. Portions shrink. People stand in lines that move too slowly. They listen to the sounds outside the walls, and they chew in silence. Sleep becomes shallow. People wake at small noises. A door creaks and someone sits up. A gust of wind makes a shutter bang and someone whispers a prayer. In churches, candles burn in rows. Wax drips down thick and slow and hardens into pale lumps. The air is warm near the flames and cold near the stone. Prayers rise, not loud, not frantic, but steady, a kind of stubborn calm. Outside the walls, the Ottoman camp continues its life. Smoke rises from cooking fires. Metal rings as tools are used. Soldiers practice and march. The siege is not only battle. It is waiting, planning, exhausting the enemy. Days blur. The sound of cannon becomes part of the city's weather. Then comes the moment every defense fears, the breach. It does not feel like a clean opening. It feels like confusion, smoke, dust, shouting in many languages. The scrape of metal, the thud of running feet, the sudden, ugly closeness of strangers forcing themselves through broken stone. Orders break apart. One man yells for help. Another yells to fall back. Another yells a name, brother, friend, son. Fear moves faster than any message. In that chaos, old lines vanish. Soldier and citizen blur. Sacred places and ordinary streets become the same ground under the same terror. People run past shops they once visited every day. Past fountains. Past doorways with familiar marks. Now everything is urgent, everything is loud, everything is sharp. The city's great strength has always been its sense of continuity. It has always believed tomorrow will come. But now tomorrow arrives wearing a different face. What lasted for centuries begins to end in minutes. After the storm of violence, another sound arrives. Silence. Not peaceful silence. A heavy silence that makes footsteps sound too loud. Survivors move through streets that feel suddenly unfamiliar. Some look for family, calling names into doorways. Some stare at damage as if staring could turn time backward. Some hold small bundles of belongings, not because it is enough, but because holding something keeps the hands from shaking. Power changes quickly, because power always does. New guards stand at gates. New orders appear. Men count buildings, supplies, people. The city is taken, and then it is organized. Constantinople does not disappear. It becomes something else. New rulers reshape it, not from nothing, but from inheritance. The city remains the same strategic miracle, still commanding the strait, still binding seas and continents, still drawing trade and ambition into its harbors like a tide that does not stop. And the world outside feels it. News travels across seas and borders. A great old center has fallen. Trade routes are reconsidered. Alliances shift. People far away speak the city's name with fear and wonder, as if a star has fallen from the sky. Some look for other ways to reach the wealth of the East. Some rulers plan new wars. Some merchants dream of new roads. An ending here becomes beginnings elsewhere. History rarely erases. It reshapes. And that is why the walls still matter. They were built to make people feel safe. For centuries, they did. They held back armies. They held back panic. They held up a story that this city could outlast time. But endurance can become a trap. If you survive long enough, you might start to believe you cannot fall. You might stop noticing how the world is changing outside your gates. Constantinople's story is not only about force. It is also about perception. A city can be strong and still become thin. It can be beautiful and still become lonely. It can keep repeating old rituals even as new rules are written in the world beyond. Some stones still stand today. They carry scars. They carry repairs. They carry the touch of many generations. Their lesson is quiet, but clear. Permanence is not protection. Continuity is not immunity. The most dangerous moment is when "we have always survived" starts to sound like "we will always survive."